What is up, everybody? We're back here at King Film Sports for the February 19th, third edition of our college basketball bracketology and predictions. Here we'll be going through all of the bubble teams, all of the teams in the 68-team field, and then predicting the bracket the way I see it, with some updates of how the college basketball season has been going here over the past few weeks. Reminder to join our Discord. Link is in the description there. We hit a massive bet in NASCAR. Byron to win the Daytona 500 was plus 2,200 there for a half unit, so made 11 units there. Also winning big in college basketball and tennis, so be sure to check that out. Link in the description. But here we get to the bubble teams first, and we have had some intrigue here, especially with these SEC teams. So you see here with Texas, they had a perfect spot last week in the middle of the week against Bama at home. They unfortunately got blown out by 20 plus points, and that one was never close, just the Alabama barrage. But then they were able to win with some good plays late against Kentucky over the weekend at home. Kind of salvages their position here. I think they're safely in the tournament. Then you have WVU. Things could get testy here for them. They've lost a few in a row, notably to BYU at home and then to Baylor on the road. They play Cincinnati tonight at home. That's going to be a big game for them to win. And then BYU, they've been heating up as of late. I mentioned that they won at WVU, and then they beat the two Kansas schools pretty convincingly, Kansas State and Kansas there. Those aren't the best teams, but great home court advantage. I think that they're safely in the tournament as of now. And then you've got Vanderbilt, who's been trembling as of late. Yes, very tough strength of schedule in the SEC, but they did get blown up by Auburn at home last week, and then had a pretty good-sized lead, 16 points at Tennessee, and they squandered that away there. So definitely going to have to get a few more wins to be safely in the tournament, but I do think that they are above some of these other SEC teams. Then in the last four, and you've got SDSU, who got a big win over the weekend against Boise. Then Oklahoma. I really disagree with this. I think that they should be out as of this point. They've lost, I think, 5 in a row at this point, and even a loss to LSU over the past week. So I definitely think that they should be out. Arkansas, similarly, I think that they have a better claim to be in at this point, but definitely got to get some big SEC wins. They go to Auburn tonight, so we'll see if they can put up a fight there. Lost to Texas A&M over the weekend. Then you have Wake Forest, who had a tough loss to FSU last week, but then won at SMU as well. So that was a big win for their bubble hopes there in a down ACC. Then you've got VCU. They play George Mason this weekend on Saturday, and the winner of that will be the regular season leader there in that conference. So we'll see if Virginia Commonwealth can get out on top there. Then you've got Georgia, who has been faltering lately. They play Auburn this weekend, trying desperately to get a couple wins there. They lost big to Missouri over the weekend. Then you have SMU here, just in trouble in this down ACC here, and a tough loss to Wake Forest. Then you've got UNC. I've kind of gone over it throughout the weeks. Yes, they have been winning some games here, but atrocious ACC, and in their big games, they haven't really performed. Then you've got Indiana trying to salvage its season. Went through a tough stretch there in the Big Ten. They're going to have to get a few more wins. Xavier sneakily winning some games, putting themselves back into the picture in the Big East. Kansas State, they were looking trendy, but now they've lost 2 or 3 in a row. And then you've got UC Irvine. And then going to the first 4 matchups, we've got Arkansas versus Wake Forest. No real lean here, but I would say that Wake Forest is probably the slightly better team at this point, definitely more consistent there, although the Hogs could definitely win. And then I would take SDSU to beat Oklahoma at this point. I think that they're just playing much better ball. As I've said, I don't really think that Oklahoma deserves to be in the tournament as of now. So with that being said, let's get into the bracket. And as we've seen the past few weeks, Auburn is the number 1 overall seed, and the committee in their initial rankings had Auburn as the number 1 overall team even before they beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa there. So definitely cemented there. They will be there for a while. So in this first game, we'll take them to beat the 16 seed. Then we've got the WCC versus Mount West matchup here, Gonzaga versus Utah State. I'm taking Gonzaga to win this one. They've got a big date coming up with St. Mary's at home on Saturday, so definitely looking to win that one to improve their seeding. Utah State, tough loss for them at New Mexico this past weekend, but still looking strong. Then I'll take Maryland over the first court 4 contender here. I've got them playing Wake Forest, but Maryland playing great basketball right now. They have been shooting the lights out, but definitely looking good and improving their seeding here. A few weeks ago, they were a 7 or 8 seed, now up to the 5 line. Maybe could get in the top 4 if they continue this within Big Ten play. And then we've got St. John's back up to the number 4 line. They had a tough loss last week to Villanova, but then did get right, beat Creighton at home as well. So I have them advancing there, playing great defense. Then bit of an upset here. We're taking UC San Diego to beat Ole Miss. I've just been very disappointed by this Ole Miss team. Tough loss for them over the weekend at home to Mississippi State. That means that they got swept by that Mississippi State team this season, and just generally in some of their bigger games haven't really performed. And I really like how UC San Diego is playing. I definitely think they're alive for an upset or two in the tournament if they make it. And then we've got Wisconsin beating Towson here. Wisconsin, again, red hot throughout the past few weeks in this Big Ten. Another great win against Illinois this past week. And then we've got St. Mary's versus Texas. Texas, obviously, that good win that I mentioned against Kentucky, but I just think that St. Mary's has been better over the long haul here. Of course, only the one loss to San Francisco in conference. And as I mentioned with Gonzaga, they have a big game coming up later this week. And then we'll take Iowa State to beat Bryant there. Then in the second round, interesting matchup potentially. The analytics really love Gonzaga, as we all know, but definitely taking Auburn to win that one. I think that Gonzaga just doesn't have the physicality to match up with that Auburn Tigers team there. And then Maryland, St. John's. I know that a lot of people really like this St. John's team right now, but I'm actually taking Maryland, drinking a little bit of the Kool-Aid there, as their recent performance has just been elite. So we'll take them to advance to the Sweet 16. Then Wisconsin versus UC San Diego. If the Tritons were facing another team, I would potentially consider it, but Wisconsin, so hot right now. Definitely the best team in the Big Ten as it stands, so give me them to advance. And then St. Mary's versus Iowa State. Definitely think that St. Mary's could muck up this game. Was definitely considering picking them in this matchup, but Iowa State seems to have things steadied. Got a good win against Cincinnati over the weekend, and then another one on Tuesday. So we have them advancing. Then Auburn versus Maryland. I do not really think that Maryland has the best shot against this Auburn team, just because they rely exclusively on a three-point shot, and we see how that turned out for Alabama this past weekend. So give me Auburn to advance there. And then I will take Wisconsin to advance the Elite Eight over Iowa State. I just think that their shooting and ball movement on offense would reign supreme there. And then give me Auburn to advance to the Final Four. We actually had these two teams playing in the Final Four last week. Auburn and Wisconsin. I had Auburn winning in that one. Was considering a potential upset here, but just this Auburn team has been too dominant at this point. Definitely have to see them getting to the Final Four there, especially with the home court advantage that they will have with this region being played in Atlanta. Then we get to the Midwest region. Indianapolis, Alabama, still the number 2 overall seed here. I am a little bit shocked by that just because of how that game transpired at home against Auburn, never really being in the lead in that matchup. Yes, they tied it up a couple times, but just from the opening tip, Auburn asserted itself as the better team. Still give us the Crimson Tide to defeat Quinnipiac. Then Creighton versus Baylor here. Both of these two teams lost on Tuesday. I will take Baylor. I just think that they're the slightly better team in this matchup here, but both of those teams kind of trending down mediocre play as of late. Then Missouri versus Yale. You guys know how high I am on this Yale team potentially getting an upset out of the Ivy League. Also, shout out Dartmouth, who is second place in the Ivy League right now. They've been playing great basketball, great year-over-year improvement. But this Missouri team has just been superb in the last couple weeks out of the SEC here. So I definitely see them winning this matchup. They've got a big game coming up against Alabama tonight, in which they are favored on their home court there. So highly anticipated watching that one. Then Michigan, we've got them beating High Point there. Then Illinois, I was considering them getting upset here just because they've been so lackluster in some of their games. Remember, they were a 3 or 4 seed a couple weeks ago, but George Mason, I just do not love them right now at the 11 line, so I will take the Illini to advance. Then give us Kentucky to beat UNC Greensboro. Then we've got Mississippi State versus Nebraska. I've been disrespecting this Mississippi State team, but they have been playing much better here as of late. A big win at home against Texas A&M, so I will take them to beat Nebraska. Then we've got Houston advancing as well. I will take Alabama to easily beat Baylor. As I mentioned, just not too high on the Bears right now. I think that Alabama has too much size and too much shooting for this Baylor team. Then Missouri versus Michigan. This one was very close here. Michigan does have a big winning streak going on right now, but a lot of these games are very close. I definitely thought that Ohio State should have won that game against Michigan over the weekend. If not, at least got it to overtime there with the air ball with a couple seconds to play. So give me Missouri to win this one. And that sets up the matchup that we have tonight in Columbia, Missouri, between Alabama and Missouri in the Sweet 16. Then give us Kentucky to beat Illinois. Even with that tough loss at Texas, I think this Kentucky team's offense and defense are just superior to this Illinois team at this point. And then a potentially very interesting matchup, Houston versus Mississippi State. I think this game would be played in the 40s or the 50s here. Absolute rock fight, but I just think that Houston has a little bit more offense there, but very entertaining matchup nonetheless. Then we get to this Alabama-Missouri matchup. This one was very tough to decide. I'm narrowly going Alabama in this matchup. I definitely think that Missouri could win this game tonight. I mean, they are favored by 1.5 in that matchup, but I'm just thinking in the neutral site, with all things equal, I would say that this Alabama team is slightly better there, but definitely a lot of respect given to Missouri, even with this pick. And then we've got Kentucky versus Houston. I have Houston winning this one. I just think that they'd be able to lock down Kentucky on the defensive end there, and just their offense would reign supreme over the Wildcats there. So that's up to an Alabama versus Houston Elite Eight matchup, and give me the underdog Cougars there, the number 2 seed, to advance out of this region right now. Just not sold on this Alabama team. I think that they will drop a couple more games as the season wears on there, and I definitely disagree with them being the number 2 overall seed for now. Then we get to the Western region where now Florida is the fourth overall number one seed there, and I definitely endorse that. Tennessee was being given this love earlier on in the season, and I just did not understand that at this point. As I've said before, I do not think that it is likely for SEC to comprise of three of the four number one seeds. I think that another team from another conference, maybe Houston or an Iowa State, will step up and grab this number one spot, just because these SEC teams all playing each other will lend itself to them losing some games there. But anyway, I will take this Florida team to beat Norfolk State there. Then Oregon versus New Mexico. Oregon kind of steadied the ship with some of these home games, but I do really like the Lobos out of the Mountain West. They've got a tough game tonight at Boise State, so we'll see if they can win that one, take a stranglehold over the conference. As I mentioned, beat Utah State over the weekend. That was huge. Then we've got Marquette over Drake. Drake kind of trending downward as of this point. Not sure if they will be able to make it in our at-large spot, so they probably have to win their conference as of now. And Marquette, yes, dealing with some injuries and midseason woes, but I think that they've gotten some wins against some inferior competition here, so give me them to win. Then Texas Tech, a tough loss for them in the past few days, but I do think that they beat this Akron team. And then we've got Clemson versus Vanderbilt. As I mentioned, Vanderbilt kind of trending down, tough loss to Tennessee, and Clemson just keeps it going here. Big win for them against FSU over the weekend, so I think they continue things there. Then Purdue trending downward. Surprised they even still got this number 3 seed, but they were at number 2 in the past, so I guess it makes sense. I will have them beating Jacksonville State there. And then Memphis, massive trend downward. I remember they were a 4 seed a couple weeks ago, now down to the 7 line after a tough loss to Wichita State. Give us BYU to get a tiny upset there in the 10-7 matchup, and then we're taking Texas A&M to beat Montana. So then we advance to the second round where we've got Florida against this Lobos team. I just think that Florida has too much size to muck it up against this New Mexico team, so give me the Gators to advance, and then we will take Texas Tech to advance against Marquette there. I just think they're playing much better basketball, much deeper team at this point. And then we will take, once again, Clemson to go on a little bit of a run here, give us them to beat Purdue at this point. I just think that they're playing better basketball, better on the offensive end for sure, and defense there. Then another big upset, BYU beating Texas A&M. I just do not think that Texas A&M has a reliable offense here that is suited for this tournament. You saw against Mississippi State, when the offense is just not moving in Buzz Williams' system, it is not a pretty sight there, and I do think that BYU has some great defense there, so definitely live for an upset if they're hitting some shots. I think that they will give us them to advance there. I have very much been disrespecting this Texas A&M team, and we will see they do play Tennessee this weekend, so maybe they can get another big win there, but that is my thoughts for now. Then we're taking Florida to beat Texas Tech in the Sweet 16 to advance the Elite Eight there. Just think that they have too much shot making and defense for the Red Raiders in that one. And then interesting matchup here between Clemson and BYU. I do think that BYU slightly better here, but it could obviously go either way. But inject some variance into this bracket and some juice. We will take the Cougars to advance the Elite Eight, where I don't think it's completely off the board of them beating a team like Florida, but obviously the Gators are a much better team at this point. So give me them to advance to the Final Four there. And then we get to the final region. We've got the East in Newark here, and give us Duke to advance to the second round. Then we've got UConn, Ohio State. I've been picking this UConn team to win some games here in the tournament, but that was just such a bad loss against Seton Hall over the weekend here, actually in the arena that they will be playing the Elite Eight and Sweet 16 in this region. And I know that they did win yesterday as well to steady the ship, but that was just so disgusting. And I know that this Ohio State team even lost as well, but I do think that the Buckeyes would be able to get the win there. UConn, just not enough consistent offense for my liking. Then we've got Kansas versus McNeese. I don't even know how this Kansas team deserves a 5 seed at this point. They were a top 4 seed in the committee rankings, but when it's all said and done, I think that they could potentially be a 7 or an 8 at this point. Disgusting losses to Utah and BYU over the weekend. So we will take this McNeese team to beat them. We know about their offense in years past, so I do think that this McNeese team, who have been playing great so far this season, will get it done there. Then we're taking Michigan State to beat Lipscomb. Then I am taking an upset SDSU to beat UCLA. I know that UCLA has been playing slightly better here. They had some woes when they were traveling in the tough Big Ten, but I just think that this SDSU team would be able to muck up the game there. I do think that their defense would lead to the demise of this UCLA team there. Then we're taking Arizona to beat Utah Valley in that one. Then Louisville versus West Virginia, as I mentioned, not high on this WVU team. And this Louisville team, I know that they haven't been playing in high-profile games in this ACC, but they just continue to win games there and stay on the 7 line. So we'll take the Cardinals to win that one. Then we're taking Tennessee to beat Central Connecticut. Advance to the second round, I'm easily taking this Duke team to beat Ohio State by potentially 15-plus points in that one. And then a big upset, I'm taking McNeese to beat Michigan State. I know that Michigan State beat Purdue And they also did get a big comeback win against Illinois, but just something that I don't trust about this Michigan State team. I know that they are at the 4 line and maybe even could go up at this point based on some of their results, but just seem to be getting a little lucky for my liking here. And I do think that McNeese could knock down some shots against them. So I do think that Michigan State gets upset there. Then SDSU versus Arizona. If Arizona's shots aren't falling and they're playing a little bit stupid, definitely think that the Aztecs could challenge them in this one, but the Wildcats just have too much talent, so give me Arizona to advance. And then I continue to disrespect Tennessee. I'll do it once again. Give me this Louisville team to beat the Volunteers there. Tennessee really playing with fire, in my opinion, and almost lost that game to Vanderbilt over the weekend, as I mentioned there. We'll see against Texas A&M this Saturday, but I do think that this Tennessee team trending downward in a tough SEC there. And I do think that Louisville is very underrated in the ACC right now, just picking up these wins, so I will take them to advance. Then in the Sweet 16, I will take Duke to easily beat McNeese and then give me Arizona, the more talented team, over Louisville, advance the Elite Eight here. And Duke, Arizona, definitely can see Arizona's talent matching up well with Duke, and that veteran leadership in these close games definitely have the experience there. But overall, I do think that Duke is the better team, so giving them to advance to the Final Four here. So kind of chalk. We've got 3 1 seeds and a 2 seed in Houston. In the first game, Auburn, Florida, we saw this one a couple weeks ago. I do have to honor Florida's grit and toughness. They haven't been faltering, trending upward all the way to this number 1 line, and they did win in Neville Arena, so I will give them the benefit of the doubt there. Definitely Auburn would be favored in this matchup, although not by too many points. I think that the spread would probably be around 3 or 4 in that matchup on a neutral site, but give us the Gators to advance. And then I'm taking Duke to beat Houston, obviously the rematch from the Sweet 16 game last year. Definitely think that Houston's veteran leadership and experience in these close Big 12 games could lead to the demise of Duke there, but as I mentioned, just too much talent with this Duke team, so give me the Duke Blue Devils to advance to the final. And this one could go either way, but I will take Florida to narrowly beat Duke as it stands right now, so give me the Gators to win this bracket here. So with that being said, let me know what you guys think of all of my predictions in the comments down below. What are your guys' thoughts on the bubble right now? Any upsets that I didn't predict? Any massive seeding disagreements that you guys have with Joe Lenardi's latest bracket? Let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you guys all in the next one.